Welcome
to Film Shapes.
It's a podcast.
Come with me.
This is The Oasis. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
This is podcast chat about Ready Player One, and today we have Roly, hi,
Hey,
and Seb, special guest.
Howdy.
How are you?
a giant
I'm okay.
of film.
A giant of film.
A titan, thank you.
Titan. So let me just refresh you guys and everybody else. This is a Spielberg film, his latest. It's about a young fella and his friends who are trying to find the 3 keys to the Oasis, which is a virtual reality world. Now, whoever finds these keys will own the business because the creator has passed away, and he's given this sort of game a challenge to find the keys to the Oasis. And, of course, there's a nefarious competitor who enters the game to try and win as well. What do you guys think? Roly?
Oh, I'm wondering if I say that I didn't see this film at the cinema, that I saw it in situations less than ideal. But my impression of this film was you didn't have to pay too much attention. But that's not to say the film was all bad. I enjoyed especially the first 20 minutes of this film, and I kind of trailed off a bit towards the end.
The first 20 minutes, let me just refresh myself. Is that the 20 minutes of exposition?
Well, I guess so. It's kind of, I don't know, I thought there was some really good, what I guess you'd call world building
Okay.
in this film. I thought it did a convincing job of making you feel like there was more going on than you were actually being shown on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I had a good impression of that, and because I didn't see it on a big screen,
Yeah.
I didn't have all the special effects to be distracting me from the other elements. So in some ways, I think that was good.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, that's my initial gist.
Seb?
Well, I saw it at the cinema in all its 3D glory, and I'm not really sure if the effects really did distract from it. My just initial reaction to it was, it's a Spielberger. It's the type of film that, or as the other person put it, that went and sort of dragged me into the screening, he described it as, well, vanilla. But more critically, what kind of vanilla? I mean, is it connoisseur vanilla? Yeah. Maybe even soft serve.
I think it's a buller, like a tub, a cheap tub.
A cheap tub of vanilla.
Yeah.
Bit too much vanilla.
Is this Spielberg reliving his youth here, or?
Well, yeah. It's a pop culture.
It's a pop culture
orgasm, basically.
If he's reliving his youth, it's by committee.
Yeah.
There's a real feeling that there was like a Gen X committee advising Spielberg.
Yeah.
On this one.
Or like he's like Sorrento in the film with someone in his ear going, "It's this, it's say this, say that."
There were some cool little scenes in the film. I think. You can't deny its slickness, and I'm not talking about the special effects there, but I don't know. I thought the way the story was presented was fairly smooth.
Well, he's nothing if not a pro at getting a story out and technically making a film, but I don't think he's that creative. I don't think he's got much of a... he doesn't have much originality. A lot of his films have been based on other texts, as this one was as well. Yeah,
the whole premise of this film is to recycle in any way, isn't it? It's the amount of pop culture references in it is...
And that's why it's a little bit... I give it a bit more credit than other films who just have that as an aside. You know what I mean? Some films that just whack in a few different pop culture references just so people can go, "Oh, I remember that. Or wasn't that cool?" But it's got nothing to do with the story. In this case, it is the story.
Yeah,
So it's got a little bit more credit than the usual tripe that does that. For me, anyway.
Yeah, it's very dense on those references, unfortunately. It's sort of... I guess I wouldn't mind harking back to a review I read from The Atlantic that said... perhaps this film fails because it actually doesn't cater to any demographic at all by trying to encompass too much of a broad-ranging demographic. And the general rule is 15 years either side of the target demographic. And I'm just wondering whether, the film is kind of unsatisfying in the sense that it's trying to, get the youngest audience to the oldest
Yeah.
audience, and
Spreading its butter too thin.
But it's
Spreading
doing
its
it
butter
with
too thin.
Van Halen, isn't it?
Well, that's
so it's kids versus adults, where it's all supposed to be going. Hey, well, we've got the real deal going on, but then they've got all the references are much older than that.
And do kids really dig that? I mean, I don't know. Duran Duran, really? Seriously,
all.
millennials into that stuff?
It's. I mean, I listened to a pod on this on the Empire podcast about this film being, exactly. It's childish. The story is kind of for kids, but the references are all for middle-aged white guys.
Yeah, but I don't think that in itself makes it a bad film. That makes it a film that's probably hard to market. I don't think that necessarily means it's a mistake.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be on track for big business. If you know, I think it's cracked 475 million in world sales, but it doesn't look like it's going to get much more. Although in Japan, it could, when it opens there, it could do well if it hasn't yet.
When it's all said and done, at the end of the day, I think the concept that is being represented in this film, I think it's being represented quite well, and I like the concept.
What's the concept?
The concept of a virtual reality world that everyone dives into, but I like the little things in that world where, well, actually the normal power structures are still in place, so you still need enough money or enough points.
Well, the evil corporation wants to control.
If you want the full experience, then you have to be able to afford the full haptic suit with all the feedback and things, and then you can hang out at the best clubs and all. I think that was quite successful. That was quite successfully represented in terms of it doesn't change. This isn't going to change society. Society's going to be just the same in a different environment. I liked that.
Yeah, I think the difference between reality and the virtual world is pretty good too. It's well designed and but as far as themes go, it's pure Spielberg, isn't it?
In what way?
Sort of friendship and belonging to a clan and all that sort of stuff, and it's hope and optimism and all that kind of stuff.
The ending felt a bit.
Well, of course.
New Millennium Goonies.
New Millennium Goonies. Yes. Yeah. I don't know. And it's interesting that. Oh, did anybody notice the Willy Wonka ripoff all the way through?
No. What was that?
Well, it's. I think I wrote about this in the blog that this will be appearing in. Basically, there's a challenge. You have to get a golden ticket, or in this case, 3 keys.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
There's a rich, nutty kind of man-child.
The Sorrento guy?
Yeah, no.
Sorrento's
Sorrento's the evil guy. Halliday.
Yeah. And there's even, if you remember the original Willy Wonka, I think there's a tube where they burp and they go up and down this sort of floaty tube. Well, there's one very similar to that.
Oh it was a compendium in a way of homage.
Yeah,
But homage is fromage, like the the reference to. Actually, I felt a little the Kubrick thing. Remember the Kubrick
The Shining,
level?
yeah.
And the Shining's cool, and I didn't mind it, being homage, but I think homage is fromage because basically it doesn't break any new ground, and there was this other aspect that I thought related to a film. I don't know if it was the 90s, Surrogates with Bruce Willis, and there was a line in that, and I think that was the most intriguing aspect, was that someone that you meet in the Oasis that obviously is an idealised representation of who they would like to be. How would it be when you meet them in real life? How do you know it's not a fat guy in a STEM chair, which is the line from Surrogates?
Okay.
I like that.
And so when it actually followed through with the reality and he meets, the love interest, the dame, who is kind of like a Winona Ryder clone. I got this theory that Hollywood is absolutely just replicating aesthetics. It's recycling itself. In other words, Natalie Portman is mini Julia Roberts, and whoever that actress was had the same sort of aesthetic as, Winona Ryder. That's not a problem. She's the love interest, and what's, at least she was attractive. I mean, hell, they weren't going to get their freak on. I can't just love your mind. But if she was a really
But
you
she
know,
had a
I would
big
have
birthmark.
She had
on
a
her
birthmark.
eye.
Thank God for that.
Oh.
She's got a little bit of Dalmatian about her.
Right.
I would have preferred it if she'd been a dude that he was...
Right.
But he's still
But
like,
his
well,
dude mate's a chick.
But Spielberg can't do that.
you can't have an openly gay relationship.
Oh,
And
come
that's,
on.
I reckon Spielberg's in that character. I reckon the young guy is, you've got to...
Well, he looks a lot like him as a youth.
Well,
Yeah.
idealised Spielberg.
And his Oasis type character was a little bit David Bowie, I thought.
Really?
Did you notice that? He looks a bit like David
I think
Bowie.
they mentioned that when
Serious
he was,
Moonlight
when he was
tour
dressing
kind
up
of-
to go on the date. He did a Bowie style.
Oh, his avatar.
dress-up. Yeah.
His
Yeah,
avatars. If you're feeling a bit of David there.
A little bit David.
Bit man who fell to earth.
Just on that Wonka thing, I listened to an interview with the writer of the book, and he co-wrote the script as well, Ernest Cline. And they asked him, how did you feel going to meet Spielberg? Because apparently that book is quite influenced by Spielberg films, so it's kind of a bit of it's chewing its own tail sort of thing.
Homage to fromage.
Yeah, there you go.
To frottage.
You know what he said? He said, when I went to Amblin Pictures, it was like I was Charlie Bucket with the golden ticket. Bang, right back to Wonka.
There we go.
So I don't know if he wrote that as a Wonka tribute or something, or I don't know. It's very echoey.
What kind of world do these guys live in? Really, that's what you wonder. That if the lives they're actually living are kind of akin to this idealisation that there is this subtext about wanting the sort of ultimate control, and so that the next evolution of that is haptics. The suit, you can have the full immersion experience. Interestingly enough, I'm not exactly sure, but Spielberg doesn't have a merchandising budget for this, I believe.
Really?
I don't know if that's true, but I think that central to the message of the movie, because where it wraps up, we're going to have Thursdays and Saturdays off, so kiddies don't get too immersed.
Yeah.
To the point that you lose
Yeah, there was
yourself.
a bit of moralising there at the end,
So
wasn't
it's
there?
a bit, yeah. Oh, you think he's not
Which no one's
cashing in on
surprised
all the characters?
No, I don't. I think there is a commentary about the blockbuster machine, and I think he's been mindful of that. But I'm
Okay.
not sure whether he's replicated that because the film is such a pastiche of tributes to really Gen X culture, and that's why I sort of think, well, it sort of betrays. I'm not sure if it actually satisfies any demographic, and maybe it's a bit of a pastiche in that sense. I don't know whether a pastiche would be negative in this sense.
Well,
or positive,
You're right in that. I just remembered that bit in that tube where they're floating in the nightclub. He brings out this fucking checkerboard dance floor from Staying Alive.
Oh, exactly.
That's right.
That's even a bit further back anyway.
retro. And someone goes, retro.
Oh, so retro.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I was also
Seriously.
Retro's
really
always
that's
cool.
the bit that I thought, fuck this, I'm out of this cinema. But yeah, I stuck it out. But
Too long
It
as
was
well.
too long.
No, seriously,
Definitely.
all these films are like 2 hours 20 minutes,
Yeah.
and what I think you've got to be a really good filmmaker to sustain someone's interest for that long, and I think it's a lot of padding and action scenes.
Yeah.
And what happens is you actually find yourself sitting there becoming more self-conscious. Oh, here's the action bit.
Yeah.
So in actual fact, these films don't weld because they're just sequences jammed together.
And it's kind of also it's quite telegraphed. You've got 3 challenges. Bing, bang, bosh, right? Yeah, okay, that's the second one. What's next? It's got to be the third one. We're waiting for that. So it's a bit predictable in that case.
But there's a lot of other elements within that,
Yeah.
Did anyone notice the data privacy kind of issues coming up there? Where
Go on.
that's a bit don't use your real name.
Oh, I see.
All that
Yeah.
business, even in this world, I think he's making some commentary around those issues as well,
Yeah.
Mm.
which is quite relevant. I think there's a lot more to this film than just the
What was the movie
Whiz
with
bang.
DiCaprio in it? The Christopher Nolan one.
Not Inception. is it?
Inception,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you reckon Inception's a bit of a computer game in a way?
it's a similar other world, really.
Similar other-
Dreams in a
it's
dream
just-
in a dream.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's going into one. It's reality to virtual reality. This Ready Player One.
Yeah.
I think Inception's more insidious. It's about getting into planting shit in people's dreams to
Bit
make
more.
them do something in the real world.
A bit more Phil K.
Yeah.
Dick.
Yeah.
But it was also
Yeah.
cool, when the bad guy Sorrento's someone's pointing a gun at him, and he works out, oh, hang on, this isn't real, and he puts his hands to his face, and he can feel that he's wearing the goggles, and then he's free of that. You know, I think
some of those things work well.
There's a lot of cleverness in this film that can easily go by the wayside because you're focused on it being a big Spielberg,
a big cheese fest.
And if this wasn't made by Steven Spielberg, and it was made by a younger director, do you think we'd be looking at this a little bit differently? Like, what if Duncan Jones had made this film?
Oh, if Duncan had made it,
you know, I think a lot of people would be going, "Wow, it's a
really
tour de force."
Psychedelic,
you know?
Duncan.
I don't know. I mean, apparently the book, which I haven't read, is quite hard to get into. It's a bit Dan Brownish, if I've heard correctly. Kind of simple writing, a bit boring in places, and then cliffhanger every episode. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't subscribe to the idea that a movie has to be a faithful adaptation of the book. I actually think that as cultural artifacts, they stand separately, and it's kind of pointless to engage in a cross-textual comparison. So the movie doesn't stand on its own merits as a movie.
Well, no. Apparently they've improved it. Even Spielberg has improved the book, which is kind of the point of.
Yeah,
I mean, he saw something in that. And apparently even Jaws was a shite book. I remember reading it, but it was a bit of a pot boiler, and he improved on that.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got a knack.
Say, "I'll read the book first."
Right? Maybe not in these cases. Yeah.
I enjoyed T.J. Miller's character.
Oh yeah.
I thought.
That voice, that really hit me. Hang on, who did he play again?
I-Rock, yeah. The guy with the Skeletor chest.
That's right.
Yeah. And, there's a kind of wryness to his performance that you just can't take seriously. And it's like, was it Halliday, the inventor? Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting to see that Spielberg is working with a different sort of category of actor in a way that these are the more sort of hip, young, contemporary, comedians in their own right. And I think he's, Stephen, but cast some of this T.J. Miller. He's really cool, and he's quite tongue in cheek with that genre. And so there was, every time I saw a scene with him, I was overtaken by, just his wit on the character.
Yep, I mean Simon Pegg has done a few things with Spielberg as well in the last 5-10 years. So
I think he slots in great on any genre of Simon Pegg. I think he's 100% the character.
Yeah.
Whereas T.J. Miller is always kind of a little bit T.J. Miller, but he knows
I've only seen him in one
Silicon
other
Valley.
Oh, okay.
Silicon Valley?
He plays
Maybe.
Barkman.
He was in Deadpool.
Alec Barkman.
Silicon Valley is the TV series.
TV,
great series.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he knows that geeky world of VR very well, and certainly there's a little wryness that's communicated with comes through his character, which means there is a rarefied language of jargon. At least this film, is this an everyman's film that anyone can actually appreciate, or does it just sort of really doesn't hit the mark with anyone?
Do you need to? Is it necessary to know what all the references are, or can a kid watch it and go, "I've got no idea what this music is. I've got no idea who these characters are."
I don't
games.
know. It wasn't too bogged down in jargon, though.
Yeah.
Was it? Gaming jargon?
No, I think it was pretty understandable. It's just
I reckon I missed 50% of them, probably.
Yeah, sure. There was the Back to the Future car.
Okay,
there was Godzilla. I mean, it'd probably be a bit of a game to go in this film and try and count the number.
And there are some nerds who could probably get all of them, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there's people online doing it right now.
Apparently Spielberg himself didn't even notice there was a gremlin in there until one of the screenings, and he went, "Oi, who the fuck put the gremlin in?"
He's fired. He's fired.
It was me. Sorry, Stephen. He went, "I'll leave it. It's whatever. No one's going to see it."
Okay, it's a great big Spielberg.
Thanks.
So, Stephen, look, you can't knock him too hard for this film. I don't think.
Why not?
Well, because I think it's quite an intricate and big achievement on a lot of different levels.
Apparently, it's the third hardest film he's worked on.
Yeah, right.
No, I can see logistically.
Wouldn't surprise me.
See, visually it's very hard, but thematically,
it's the same as his other stuff. It's E.T. over again,
Well, I don't know.
It's longer though. It's longer. It's longer. So
probably.
I don't know. Is it? It probably is.
Yeah. Just on that Shining episode, that one, the second challenge, I guess. Apparently, in the book, it's Blade Runner. They wanted to do the Voight-Kampff test in Blade Runner. but couldn't get the rights, which I think is probably a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a whole different conversation around this table.
Oh yes,
one which maybe we
I
not
don't
have today.
I've got one point, just one more point to finish off with.
Go for
All right.
He's at the end when he meets Halliday in the room, and he says, "What are you?"
Yeah.
And he just leaves it at that. It's ambiguous. What is he?
An AI.
An AI?
Absolutely.
Well, he does say that he is dead. The real Halliday is dead. So I think I'm with Seb on that one.
It's a piece of free-thinking code.
Yeah, I was thinking, fuck, if they just dropped he's an angel into this movie.
Oh no,
No, he's an AI.
I'm Jesus.
Right, so that goes back to Spielberg's AI film, right?
That's a guess. I mean,
Yeah, well, there could be. I mean, they're getting that's going to be linked to the sequel. Apparently.
Oh, sequel
already.
Okay.
Yeah, they're already talking about this.
You sound pretty excited.
So what kind of
about
burger
that.
would this be? I mean, what would be in this burger
Massively,
if it was a burger?
Lots of cheese.
Lots of cheese.
Mayonnaise, I reckon.
Lots of mayonnaise.
White vanilla mayonnaise.
Lots of characters
some
from movies
soft
gone
serve ice cream.
before, I think, and
Yeah.
Be like
characters,
So you
themes,
could,
and
you
It's a
wouldn't
truffle,
be able
isn't
to
it?
get your mouth around
It's
it,
a
would
Christmas.
you?
You couldn't get your mouth around it. It's
So some fungus.
some fungus.
Lots of cheese,
Bit of-
vanilla ice cream.
we need a segue to end this.
Well, that's it. The other thing, the demographics. You know, I also felt like it was cast to keep all of the demographics there. You've got to have your Chinese kid in
Of
there.
course, yeah.
Little Chinese whiz kid, and we can call him Token because that's a big audience graphic to actually embrace China. So there seemed to be some very conscious efforts to cater. But was the meal ultimately satisfying? That's all we have to really answer is that question.
Yeah, but after any burger, it's probably not so satisfying, right?
Maybe too many flavours in that burger swirling around is making me feel a little bit nauseous.
Right. On that note, thanks, guys.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye.